Right, so you're hoping to land that betting manager position, and you really want to make a great impression in your interview. Well, we've got some awesome RoleCatcher resources to help you out today, specifically their career guides and interview guides. Think of this deep dive as a masterclass in interview prep. We'll go way beyond those generic tips and give you some real insider knowledge to help you ace that interview.
Yeah, it's all about really understanding what a betting manager actually does and then knowing how to really showcase that understanding in the interview. It goes way beyond just processing bets. It's more like you're the captain of the ship. You're responsible for everything running smoothly, happy customers, a well-trained staff, and obviously making sure the business is
I
profitable.
love that analogy. So let's talk about those tricky interview questions.
Yeah.
One you'll probably be asked is, can you describe your experience in managing betting operations? How could someone really knock that one out of the park?
This is your chance to really show the depth of your experience. Don't just give them a list of tasks you've done. Instead, paint a picture of your achievements. Talk about the challenges you've overcome and the strategies you used that really worked. Try to think of specific examples, like a time you put a new process in place that made things more efficient, or a training program you developed that really boosted your team's performance. And whenever you can, quantify your impact. Did revenue increase because of what you did? Did customer satisfaction scores go up? Those details make your experience much more tangible and have a bigger impact.
That's a great point. Show them you're not just going through the motions. You're actively thinking about how to improve things. Now, another question that often comes up is, how would you ensure compliance with all the regulations in the betting industry? It seems like there's a minefield of regulations to navigate.
There is, and that's why they're asking. They want to see that you know the rules, and even more importantly, that you have a system for dealing with them. Be ready to mention specific regulations you've dealt with in the past, things like age verification, responsible gambling practices, anti-money laundering procedures. Those are all super important. You could even mention how you make sure these rules are followed every day, how you train your staff on them. Maybe you've implemented some technology solutions or developed specific protocols. Show them you're proactive about compliance and take it seriously.
And since we're talking about technology, this industry is changing so fast. Being able to adapt is probably a big deal, right?
It is, definitely. Another question you might get is, how do you analyze customer data to come up with betting strategies? This is your time to show off your analytical skills. Mention specific tools you've used, like Excel, data visualization software, or even some industry-specific platforms, and then give them a concrete example of how you turn data into something actionable. Like maybe you identified a group of customers with a lot of potential, and then you created promotions specifically for them. Or perhaps you noticed a trend in how people were betting, and adjusted your strategies accordingly. Interviewers want to know you can use data to make money.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can really be helpful. I was trying out their platform, and it's amazing. Their AI can actually analyze a job description and then suggest how to tailor your CV to that specific job. And it can even suggest how to tweak your answers to highlight the skills they're looking for.
It's like having your own personal strategy consultant. Their AI can even analyze your answers to common interview questions and give you feedback so you can make them even better and feel more confident. It takes all the guesswork out of preparing for an interview and helps you present yourself in the best possible light.
Okay, let's get back to those interview questions. Here's one about risk management. How do you manage risk in the betting industry? What are some important things to think about for this one?
Well, first, you have to think about all the risks that are just part of the betting world and how you would minimize those risks. Things like setting limits on bets, watching for suspicious activity, having procedures for handling disputes, and making sure your cybersecurity is top-notch. It would also be really impressive if you could share a specific time you successfully identified and dealt with a risk. Maybe you noticed some unusual betting patterns and set up a system to flag that kind of activity in the future. Or maybe you saw a potential weakness in your systems and fixed it before it became a problem. These examples show that you're not just reacting to risks, you're actively looking for them and managing them.
I'm already feeling more confident just hearing these tips.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a little more creative. How about this quote? How do you develop and implement marketing strategies for a betting platform? It seems like this is your chance to show off your marketing skills.
It is, you're right. The interviewer wants to see that you can think outside the box and tap into what really attracts and keeps customers in the betting world. Have you run successful campaigns on social media? Do you have experience with loyalty programs? Maybe you've worked with sports teams or influencers. Share your success stories. But don't just talk about what you did, talk about the results. Did a campaign lead to a big increase in signups? Did a certain strategy make customers more engaged or loyal? And don't forget to show off your knowledge of the latest digital marketing trends, especially how they apply to the betting industry.
This reminds me of that career progression map in RoleCatcher's Career Guide. It shows a clear path from starting as a betting shop assistant all the way up to senior betting manager. It's good to think about where you see yourself fitting into that path.
I agree. Understanding your career goals will help you answer interview questions with more purpose. For instance, if you're aiming for a senior management position, you'll want to emphasize your leadership experience and your ability to think strategically.
Exactly. And speaking of leadership, let's dig into that a little more. This next question is a classic. Can you describe your experience in managing a team of betting professionals? What are some key things to keep in mind when answering this one?
They're looking for your ability to motivate people, to delegate tasks effectively, and to build a strong team. Share examples of how you've created a positive work environment, how you've resolved conflicts, and how you've helped your team members grow. Think about a project where your leadership made a real difference. Did you lead your team through a rough patch? Did you come up with a new initiative that improved performance? Show them that you're not just a manager, you're a leader who inspires and empowers others.
And being able to communicate clearly is a big part of that too, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you highlight how you give clear instructions, how you offer constructive feedback, and how you encourage open communication within your team.
Absolutely. It's about showing that you can create a culture of collaboration and that you're always looking for ways to improve. Okay, here's a question that combines analytical skills and strategic thinking. How would you assess the performance of a betting platform and identify areas for improvement?
This one seems like it needs a big picture perspective.
It does, you're right. They want to see that you can look beyond the day-to-day tasks and that you can identify opportunities for growth and optimization. What metrics would you track? Customer satisfaction, user engagement, how much revenue is being generated? Think of a time when you found a weakness and came up with a solution. Did you streamline a process? Did you add a new feature based on what customers were saying? Show them that you're always looking for ways to make things better and that you use data to back up your ideas.
Okay, one last question before we wrap up this part of our deep dive. This one's all about staying ahead of the curve. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and innovations in the betting industry?
This is where you can really let your passion for the industry shine. Do you follow industry publications? Do you go to conferences? Do you participate in online forums? Maybe you've taken online courses. Or you're working on a personal project related to the industry. Tell them about a recent trend that caught your attention and why it's important. Show them you're not just looking for a job, you're looking for a career, and that you're genuinely interested in the future of the betting industry.
That's great advice. We've covered some really important interview questions, and I feel so much more prepared already. Remember, preparation is key.
So we've talked about some of the operational stuff and the strategic side of being a betting manager, but let's not forget about the people part of the job. Leading and motivating your team is a huge part of this role.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can have all the technical skills in the world, but if you can't manage people effectively, you won't be successful. I think this next question really gets to the heart of that. Can you give an example of a time you had to manage a challenging situation with a team member? How did you handle it? It's one of those classic behavioral questions.
Definitely. Interviewers love these types of questions. They want to see how you actually behave in real situations, not just what you say you would do.
So how should we prepare for a question like this?
The best thing you can do is have a few examples ready to go. Think back to situations where you had to deal with conflict, or someone not performing well, or other challenges with people. Choose an example that shows off your leadership skills, your ability to communicate well, resolve conflict, and motivate others.
And it's okay to share an example where things didn't go perfectly right.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone makes mistakes. That's just part of life. What matters is that you show what you learned from the experience and how it helped you grow as a leader. For example, maybe you had a team member who kept missing deadlines. You could walk the interviewer through the steps you took. Did you give them more training? Did you offer them support? Did you have a tough conversation with them about their performance?
Yeah, and it sounds like focusing on the positive outcomes is really important too.
Exactly. Did the team member end up improving? Did the team as a whole become stronger because of what you did? Those are the details that really show how effective your leadership was.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about customer service. Creating a positive experience for customers is so important in any business, but I imagine it's even more critical in the fast-paced world of betting.
You're right, things can get pretty emotional, especially when people are betting money. Here's another question you might get. How would you handle a customer who is upset about a lost bet? Or a situation where they feel like the outcome was unfair?
That feels like a situation that could easily escalate if you don't handle it the right way.
It definitely can. The key is to stay calm, really listen to what they're saying, and try to de-escalate the situation. Remember, you're representing the company, so you have to be professional.
So what are some practical tips for dealing with a situation like that?
First, acknowledge the customer's frustration. Let them know that you understand why they're upset. Then clearly explain the rules and procedures that apply to the situation. Sometimes just explaining things can resolve the issue. But if you can't actually fix the problem, try to offer them a small gesture of goodwill. Maybe a free bet voucher or a discount on their next wager.
It's all about showing empathy and going that extra mile to turn a bad experience into a good one.
Absolutely. And sometimes that's all it takes to keep a customer and build loyalty.
Now let's talk about something that's becoming really important in the betting industry: responsible gambling.
It's a topic that people often overlook, but it's crucial that you show you understand its importance.
Here's a common interview question about that. What steps would you take to ensure responsible gambling practices are followed in your betting shop? How can we prepare for this one?
The first thing is to know the responsible gambling guidelines for your specific area. Things like making sure people are old enough to bet, having self-exclusion programs for people who need them, and knowing where to find resources for people who have a gambling problem. Then think about specific things you've done or would do to promote responsible gambling. Have you trained your staff to recognize and help customers who might be struggling?
Yeah, showing that you're taking proactive steps is really important.
It is, for sure. It shows that you're committed to ethical business practices and that you understand that the well-being of your customers comes first.
And it shows that you're in line with the company's values. Speaking of alignment, I want to mention something we talked about earlier: RoleCatcher's AI. It's pretty incredible how their platform can help you tailor your CV and your answers to specific companies and roles.
It's like having a personalized guide for the whole recruitment process. Imagine being able to look at a job description and immediately know what skills to emphasize, or how to frame your answers to really impress that particular employer.
It takes the guesswork out of preparing for an interview and gives you a real advantage over other candidates.
Definitely. And the feedback their AI gives on your answers is super valuable. It's like doing a mock interview with an expert. Someone who can tell you exactly what you need to work on and give you really helpful suggestions.
Okay, back to those interview questions. This next one is all about strategy. What are some current trends in the betting industry? And how would you capitalize on them to improve the performance of your shop? This one seems like it requires you to be able to look ahead.
You're right, it does. Interviewers want to see that you're not just a manager, you're a leader who thinks ahead, someone who anticipates change and adapts to the way the industry is evolving.
So what are some trends that we should be aware of?
Oh, there are so many. The rise of esports betting, in-play wagering becoming more popular, more and more people using mobile platforms, the use of virtual reality and augmented reality. The list just goes on and on.
So it sounds like it's not enough to just list the trends. You have to be able to explain how you would actually use them to make your shop more successful.
Exactly. Like if you were talking about the rise of esports betting, maybe you'd create a whole section in your shop dedicated to esports, or partner with local esports teams, or develop a mobile app specifically for esports betting.
It's about showing that you don't just know about the trends. You can actually turn them into concrete strategies.
Now let's switch things up a bit. Imagine you're nearing the end of the interview, and the interviewer asks, "Do you have any questions for us?"
That's such a crucial part of the interview, and people often don't realize how important it is.
You're right. It's your chance to show that you're really interested in the role and the company and the industry as a whole. It's also a great opportunity to get more information, so you can make a good decision about whether this is the right job for you.
So what are some good questions to ask?
Avoid asking generic questions, the kind that they can easily answer by looking at their website. Ask thoughtful questions that show you've done your research and that you really want to learn more. You could ask about their plans for the future, their approach to technology, how committed they are to responsible gambling, or even what their company culture is like.
It's also a chance to get a sense of the interviewer's personality and their leadership style.
Exactly. An interview is a two-way street. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We talked about the importance of leadership, customer service, and responsible gambling. and about staying ahead of the trends in the industry.
And we talked about how RoleCatcher's resources can really help you prepare for your interview, especially their AI-powered tools.
But before we wrap up this part, there's one more thing I want to touch on, something that's really important for career growth. Network.
You're right, people often underestimate the power of networking, but it can really open doors to new opportunities.
And here's a question that might come up in the interview. It's a way for them to indirectly test your networking skills. How do you stay informed about job openings and industry developments?
You can definitely mention online job boards and industry publications, but this is a great chance to show that you're proactive about networking.
So how can we impress them with our networking skills?
Share examples of how you actively participate in the industry. Do you go to industry events? Are you a member of any professional organizations? Do you connect with people on LinkedIn? Do you follow thought leaders in the betting world?
It's about showing that you're not just sitting around waiting for a job to come to you. You're actively building relationships and staying connected in your field.
Exactly. It shows that you're serious about your career and that you're always looking to learn more and expand your network. And you never know, the person interviewing you might be really impressed by your network. They might see you as someone who could bring valuable connections to their company.
That's a great point. Okay, we're ready to move on to the final part of our deep dive. We'll tackle even more challenging interview questions and go even deeper into what it takes to be a successful betting manager. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into betting manager interviews. We're going to jump right back into those tough questions you might face. Ready for some more?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay, how about this one? How would you motivate a team that's been struggling to meet its targets? This seems like a situation that needs a balance of empathy and strategy.
Yeah, it definitely does. Interviewers want to see that you understand what motivates people and that there's no magic formula that works for everyone.
So where do we even start with a question like this?
I think the first step is figuring out why the team is struggling. Is it a lack of training? Low morale? Are there things happening outside of work that are impacting their performance? Once you understand the root cause of the problem, you can tailor your approach to that specific situation. Maybe you need to implement a new incentive program or offer some one-on-one coaching, or maybe you even need to reevaluate the targets themselves.
Right, it's about getting to the root of the problem, not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms.
Exactly. And don't forget about the power of positive reinforcement. Celebrate the team's successes, no matter how small. And acknowledge individual contributions. Sometimes just a simple thank you or giving someone public recognition can really boost morale.
Now let's talk about something that's unavoidable in this industry. Technology. The betting world is changing so rapidly, and technology is driving a lot of that change.
It really is. And interviewers want to know that you're not only comfortable with technology, but that you can use it to innovate and improve how things are done.
So how might they ask about this in an interview?
They might ask something like, what are your thoughts on the impact of technology on the betting industry? And how would you leverage technology to improve your shop's operations? This is your opportunity to show them you're tech savvy. You can talk about trends like mobile betting apps, online platforms, using data analytics, maybe even virtual reality or augmented reality.
But it's not just about rattling off a list of trends, right? It's about explaining how you'd actually use those technologies to make a difference.
You got it. Maybe you see a lot of potential in using data analytics to create personalized offers for customers. Or maybe you're excited about integrating VR to create a more immersive betting experience. Whatever you're interested in, be specific. Explain how you would implement these technologies in a responsible way, making sure things like data privacy and customer safety are always top of mind.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that's essential for any leader. Decision-making. How can we show that we're able to make tough decisions under pressure, especially in a fast-paced environment like a betting shop?
A question you might get is, can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision with limited information? How did you approach the situation? This is another one of those behavioral questions. They want to see how your decision-making process works.
So what's the best way to answer a question like this?
Think of a time when you had to make a big call. Maybe you didn't have all the information you needed, or you had to make the decision quickly. Walk them through your process step by step. Did you gather as much information as you could? Did you get input from other people? Did you weigh the potential risks and benefits? And what was the result of your decision?
It's about showing that you can think critically and analyze information and make a decision even when things are uncertain.
Right, exactly. And don't be afraid to talk about what you learned from the experience, especially if things didn't turn out perfectly.
Okay, ready for a slightly awkward topic? Let's talk about salary expectations.
I know, it can be a little uncomfortable,
Oh.
but it's a normal part of the interview process. They want to make sure your expectations are in line with their budget.
So how should we handle this question?
Do your research beforehand. Find out what the typical salary range is for similar roles in your area. Think about your experience and your qualifications, and be prepared to negotiate. Don't be afraid to counteroffer if their initial offer is lower than you were hoping for. And remember, it's not just about the money. Think about the whole package. Benefits, perks, vacation time, all of that is part of the equation.
This has been such a helpful deep dive. We've explored so many different aspects of the betting manager role, from managing operations and teams to answering those tricky interview questions.
And we've seen how RoleCatcher's resources can give you a real leg up in preparing for your interview, especially their AI-powered tools.
So if you're getting ready for a betting manager interview, take these insights, refine your answers, and walk in there with confidence.
Remember, preparation is the key to success.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the world of betting manager interviews. Best of luck on your journey. The future of the betting industry is out there waiting for you.